Hello, everybody. So I say everybody. Let's see how many viewers we get tonight. This is an unusual live focus on what's happening with the PSE, which is the Philippine Stock Exchange, with two local experts. With me, I've got Alton, and I've also got Bonner. Now, I'm going to take a bit of a back seat in this because my knowledge of the Philippine Stock Exchange is limited totally. However, these guys really know what they're talking about. So, Bonner, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and tell everybody a little bit about you?
Thanks, Paul. Guys, welcome to a special episode of Trendspotting in the Philippines. Together with me is Alvin, and we have Paul also to join us in our discussion of this big problem that came to us in a few days ago. It's about China's Evergrande company that's probably going to be one big no, I can't curse. This is a live show.
Uh, yes, good evening, guys. My name is Alquid Papa, and I'm an investor in the Philippine stock market. And both me and Bonner are avid practitioners of technical analysis of the stock markets.
That's right.
And
So
every week we have a podcast called Trendspotting in the PSE, and you guys can check out that podcast. We talk about the local stock market, the Philippine stock market. We talk about technical analysis, of course, and certain sectors and trends. We've talked about the telecommunication sector, the mining sector, the prospects there for investors, retail investors in the Philippine market. So now let's go to the topic at hand, which is Evergrande.
Evergrande. Yes.
Evergrande. Yes. Okay.
Yes.
So what is Evergrande all about? Technically, I just heard of this around like 2 days ago, and assuming I have no idea what it is. How can you explain what Evergrande is and what is going on?
Okay. In a nutshell, Evergrande is China's second largest real estate developer,
Yes, real estate developer. Hmm.
but it's also the one with the most debt. Okay.
That
How
yes.
much debt are we talking about? We're talking about in excess of 300 billion US dollars.
Do they owe the Chinese banks and Chinese government, or do they
I
owe
I'm not,
also
I'm not
foreign
sure about
banks,
the government, but definitely they owe a
Chinese
total
banks?
of 305 billion US dollars. So
Here.
right now there's a speculation on what's going to happen with this one because it looks like they're going to default.
Okay.
So will a bailout by the Communist Party be good or not? So it works both ways. So
How did
we'll talk
they
about that in a while.
How did they incur this debt in the first place? Well, apparently
Expansion,
yeah, apparently they
expansion, and
expansion.
acquiring land banking. So
Okay,
they have a lot of properties. Total land bank is roughly around 231 million square meters.
okay.
So we're talking
So
about the size of Manhattan times four.
that's a that's big, but
Very.
yeah. So they are in danger of defaulting. Is that correct on
Yes.
these debts? Okay.
Yes.
Why did it reach the point where they are defaulting? Because that
I
means technically, in simple terms, it means that they can't pay off this 3 point something billion,
305 billion
305 billion. So many zeros. 305 billion US dollars, right?
US dollars.
Yes, okay. So
I
is there any report why they are defaulting?
definitely one problem is this year 52 billion in loans are due. So that's one.
Okay, okay.
The other you have 7.4 billion in bonds due next
Do
year.
okay.
Okay.
So it looks like, does it seem to you like it's some sort of an issue of mismanagement by those on
Definitely,
top? Okay.
definitely, this is a
All
case
right.
of financial mismanagement.
Oh
Uh,
dear.
If you were able to see the news a few days ago, there were a lot of people who were camped out outside their headquarters in Shenzhen.
Yeah, I think I
Why?
saw a TV report on that. Yeah.
Yes, because these people put deposits on homes that are not yet built.
Oh dear.
Now
Okay.
they have no idea if they're gonna get their money back.
Okay. This is slightly different from the housing bubble of the US.
Yes,
No?
yes,
Because there were other financial. Yes, there were other financial instruments involved in the U.S. Housing bubble, but in this case, it looks like it's more direct. It affects homeowners.
yes, definitely. Um, one other one other thing that happened was that Moody's and Fitch both downgraded
Downgraded.
their credit rating.
Ooh, okay,
Okay, the last
okay,
thing I saw, Fitch downgraded their long-term foreign currency issuer ratings for Evergrande and the subsidiaries of which are Hengda Real Estate and Tianji Holdings to
okay,
CC from CCC plus.
okay.
Okay, what does
That's
this
not
all
a good
mean?
sign.
Okay,
Yeah.
it's like this: if you have a credit rating between triple A plus to triple B, you are investment grade. You're good to go. If you're lower than that, which is what every grande is right now, you are very speculative. There's a good chance that you will default if you're getting this kind of credit rating.
So so it looks like that is really going to happen in the case of Evergrande, right? Yeah. So, what is the effect? Let's start with the effect on the Asian markets. Of course, if they default and there is a bailout somehow, there's no possibility of a white knight here. White knight
Yes.
meaning another big financial maybe institution, maybe private, to come in and save Evergrande. I mean, that's 200 billion is just too big. It's too big. What do you think about that?
Well, first things first. Will there be a bailout? Okay, so there's two sides to this.
Hmm.
If they get the bailout, well, on one hand, uh, the Chinese government I know is not keen on adding more debt to their current debt.
Okay,
So we're
makes
talking about
sense. Makes sense.
305 billion that they're gonna add on to their own debt. I don't think they're going to do
Okay,
that.
okay,
So bailout is questionable.
okay.
So on the other hand, if they allow Evergrande to collapse, please take note the real estate property or yeah the property sector in China contributes to around 29% of their whole economy. So if this closes, they're going to drag the property sector down with it. Okay, so there's going to be a fallout among the real estate companies. Plus, you can be sure it will drag the Chinese economy down.
So
When the
there's a
Chinese
domino effect.
economy,
Yeah.
yeah, there's going to be a domino effect. So if the Chinese economy falls because of this, you can bet because they're the biggest economy in Asia. The whole of Asia is going with it.
Oh dear. Okay. I hate to ask, but what is going to be the effect on the Philippine market now that we've mentioned the other Asian markets?
In a nutshell, we are going to be collateral damage.
So is this like is this like a catastrophic level, apocalyptic level kind of?
Well, we don't have a direct impact, so that's a good
Okay,
news.
okay.
But because you are in Asia
Hmm.
and everything's gonna fall,
Hmm.
I think this is what we call in Tagalog, damay-damay na.
Mm. It's like a domino effect. Yeah.
It's a
Uh,
dumb.
mhm. uh, is this going to be the same scale as the Asian real estate
The
collapse?
property bubble back
Yes,
then,
yes.
I can't say for sure,
Yeah.
but I think this may be worse.
Yes, because if you remember right, that property bubble was started in when did that start? Where did that start? It did start in China, if I remember right.
Um, I it was around 10 years or so back. So it's been some
So
time.
long ago.
It's
Okay, so
been
long
some
ago.
time. So
Yeah.
I can't
Okay.
remember all the details.
Okay. I won't hazard a guess. What about what can we do to mitigate the effects of a potential collapse?
As the Philippines itself, I don't
Yes.
think there's much we can do because we're not in the well, we're not directly affected by it.
Mhm.
So, well, actually, here Jet has a good question.
Okay,
What's
right,
the
right.
impact of the Philippine real estate
Real estate
market?
market.
I think it also answers the same question that you asked earlier. What can we do to avoid this? There's not much you can do. So, it may have some effect, but I don't think it's going to be a direct effect on us. So there's
Mm,
really not much we can do. It's all just a matter of looking at what happens next.
now look at it this way. What if, for example, if you were a real estate company, corporation in the Philippines, and then Evergrande collapses, and your debtors are looking at you and
Yes,
thinking this might happen here, so they will pull out or pull out any potential investments or even existing investments. Is that possible?
they might, they might,
Oh,
but if they're able to show them that the situation here is not as bad as the one in China, then it may be able to allay some fears.
yes. But you remember, Bonner, in the property bubble in Asia 10 years ago, the popular opinion is that the Philippines was able to weather that property bubble and the resulting economic fallout because I think it was former President Gloria Arroyo who said the the monetary policies help help keep us afloat. Uh, do you think those same policies will save us in a way from
It might,
Evergrande? Yes.
it might, because
Mm.
if we are going to compare with what happened back in the US, uh, th- as far as interest rates are concerned, ours are higher. So not
Mm.
that many people are able to avail of the loans that are out there for you to put into real estate.
Okay.
In the US, as far as I know, it was in we were just talking about decimal points, not 1%, but rather 0.25,
Okay.
more or
Okay.
less. So,
Mm-hmm.
so the interest rates were very cheap.
Mm-hmm.
So people were able to borrow money and then buy properties left and right. Well,
Mm-hmm.
that might be an exaggeration, but it was easier for them to
Okay.
buy houses rather
Mm-hmm.
than those who are here. Uh, as far as I know, the cheapest property you can buy now is a studio unit in a condominium that runs for 2 million, and not many people have that.
Yes, I remember our episode on the real estate sector, and I think there was some discussion on an existing bubble or a potential bubble here in the Philippines in terms of the real estate because precisely
Yes.
because of the pandemic. Yes.
Yes, I think what we touched on was that there was a quick expansion of
Yes.
properties.
Yes.
and we were
Oc-
seeing condominiums being built left and
occupancy,
right.
yeah, yeah, occupancy
So
is was low. Yeah.
yes, I myself was wondering who's buying all of these units. Not everyone here in the Philippines has that kind of money to buy these units. Then I forgot to look on the other side, which is where the mainland Chinese have come,
Mm.
put their money here. They're the ones buying all these units. And what I heard was in cash. I could be wrong.
Mm.
But they
But
have, in a way, they have prevented the bubble to burst.
okay, okay.
But
Yeah,
remember, they're not using this only for their own personal use, but they're also using this for their business. We're
like
talking about Pogos.
BPOs, Pogos and
Yes,
BPOs.
yes.
Okay, okay. So, but the Pogos and during the pandemic, BPOs shut down and the Pogos are also out, right?
Yes,
So,
yes.
so as it stands, as it were, um, the property sector wasn't isn't really as attractive now. Would you say?
Well, if prices are still the same, no, they're not that
Okay.
attractive. So, I think, in order for the developers to do something about the units, they need to give some kind of discount
Discount
to make it
pricing,
a little more attractive.
attractive. Okay. Um, so going to the Philippine Stock Exchange,
Mhm.
what can the average retail investor like maybe you and me, what should we watch out for? I mean, is there any sector that will first be hit by Evergrande, just so we have some sort of signal that the whole market will turn. I mean, can we is the real estate sector in the crosshair?
Well, I think most of the subsectors look very, very much alike. Let me share to you. Well, this is the index itself, so that's not looking good. But let's look at the property sector. If I zoom out, it is very similar to how the index looks. So
Yes, yes.
it's not looking good. The financials. So we're talking about banks. They're not that bad, but they're in the same boat. The holding
Okay,
sector looks very similar to the index. So with the industrial, uh, service is doing good,
okay.
but uh, the one that we were looking at for any sign of bullishness is actually here in the mining sector.
Mining sector. Okay.
So this one is an exception. But as far as the index is concerned, going back here, okay, if you guys can see this, we have what we call a head and shoulders pattern. This is bearish. Okay?
Hmm.
This is one of the rare occasions where you can see that the index came from a downtrend. Normally, you would find this coming from an uptrend. So this is when prices keep going up and then it forms this pattern, which is bearish. And what we've seen is that right here in this area, we were looking at the support of 6950. That was broken. We closed at 6912. Downside for this is at around 6737. But even if it does reach that, it doesn't mean it's over because that now makes this part look like another bearish pattern, which can push us further down to this level of uh, what level is this? 6,360. Now,
Okay.
this number keeps changing every day because we see that our support line here keeps slanting upwards. So every day this will keep going up. But the one thing that is constant here is that when this neckline is broken, we are looking at a downside of 20%.
Yes.
So we're talking about 5,000. That's quite far.
Oh, that's a deep drop. Yes, and
Very deep.
yeah, and you think Evergrande can be the trigger here?
I believe it might be one of the triggers for this.
Mhm.
My earlier concern was about how we are going to be dealing with all of our quarantine situations.
Yes.
As far as I know, our index is it's very anti when it comes to declarations of lockdowns.
Mm.
So that's what I was expecting first. Now
Mm.
that Evergrande came into the picture, this might be some kind of double whammy for the index.
Mhm. Okay. Uh, the recent change in the lockdown situation, where some businesses are opening, although there are some percentages, like for example, certain establishments will open only 10% in attendance, etc. That is not enough to weather this this coming perfect storm, in a manner of speaking.
They won't be able to survive if they operate
Okay.
at only 10% capacity.
Okay.
I know which industry you're talking about. The ones that I've been seeing recently is in the restaurant industry.
Yes, the restaurant
So
service. Mm.
they're definitely taking a big hit.
Okay.
And as a consumer, I've seen so many of these other establishments, they've closed for good.
Hmm. Yeah.
So that's the sad part of all this. You won't be seeing any of your favorites anytime soon.
Okay. Given that the elections in the Philippines will be held next year,
Yes.
so you have elections, you have Evergrande, you have the pandemic. You mix that all up together, and what does it look to you in at least until maybe till the end of the year or at the beginning of the year? What is that? How does that look to you?
Okay. Traditionally or
Mhm.
seasonally,
Yeah.
fourth quarter of every year is supposed to be strong.
Okay.
Supposed to be. The problem is we have that bearish head and shoulders looking
Mhm.
at us in the eye.
Mhm.
It's waiting for the other shoe to drop. So when that does, I don't think we'll be seeing that fourth quarter that we were expecting.
That rosy fourth quarter that we're expecting.
Not this time around.
Yeah, because Filipinos, we love the Christmas season. We tend to
Yes.
celebrate. Yeah, that's not going to stimulate some sort of at least keep the economy afloat. I mean, that kind of consumer consumption.
Well, Christmas is still going to come in. It's not going to be
Yes,
canceled anytime soon.
yeah, and Filipinos will celebrate it, whether
Yes.
that's for sure. But it won't. But the consumption there won't be enough, right? Because
Yeah. It
uh,
only needs to be simpler.
because the pandemic has curbed our consumption, in a manner of speaking. I mean, we don't go to the
Yes.
malls anymore, and
Yes.
we probably don't spend as much, although there is online spending, online
Well,
shopping.
true, but everything has shifted to online.
Yes, yes.
So
Eh,
I'm sure uh,
and I think,
apps like Shopee, Lazada, all these other similar apps,
yeah,
they're the ones that are quite robust right
yeah.
now.
Yes,
Oh, we have
and
another question.
yeah, from Jet Manila Gunner, for the small and medium entrepreneur, what would it look like with the three-headed monster looming? The elections, pandemic, and Evergrande. Well, for sure, my opinion here is that if you are a small and medium entrepreneur, and you are and you want to continue your business even into the fourth quarter, Bonner, because I think for a small and medium entrepreneur, you're looking at the fourth quarter because you're
Yes.
thinking, I gotta be operational here because consumption might kick in and I can profit from that. But
Yes.
I think it's very important for small and medium entrepreneurs to go online. They have to have an online presence because if they are not there, they will miss the boat. But with the
Definitely.
but I'm sort of on the fence on election, pandemic, and Evergrande. I mean, pandemic and Evergrande for sure for me that looks to me like a perfect storm. That's going to come in and do a lot of damage. The
Yes.
pandemic, we are already experiencing that, and I think the lesson there is that you know small and medium entrepreneurs have to have an online presence. The elections is also some sort of a question or mark, but I think elections there is usually a lot of spending. There's a nice cash flow.
Yes.
So because of the elections, so I think that can also drive consumption. But given the pandemic and the elections, I'm not really too sure because you have to remember that in the pandemic, a lot of people lost their jobs. So, and the
Yes. That's true.
tendency really is to, and there's a high degree of uncertainty. So there's a high degree of, keeping your keeping your cash safer, and not spending too much. Or what do you think about that?
Also, keeping your sanity.
Yes, of course. You have to mitigate that kind of anxiety too, right?
Yes, but definitely, with my own experience, also as a small and medium entrepreneur on the side, uh, it's not wise to have a brick and mortar kind of shop right now.
Mm-hmm.
You gain a lot of overhead for that. So the
Ah,
key now is move your business online.
okay.
Okay, we're not saying everybody goes online. Okay, there are some who are still good to go with the brick and mortar, but for
Mm-hmm.
the smaller ones, the ones who don't have a name yet, they have no choice. They have to go online. Everyone's online.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
we had an earlier question with the 13-month. I don't think there's going to be any effect on that because
Yeah.
this is already mandated by law.
By
Everyone
law.
is guaranteed to have a 13-month pay.
What about the
Okay.
next question from Jet Manila Gunner? Or would you like to take
Hey,
that, Bonner?
Shopee and Lazada are mostly Chinese merchants from mainland China. Would it affect prices? Would India, Vietnam, and Bangladesh fill in the void if the Chinese suppliers collapse? Will it affect prices? It now depends on how your supplies are. If most of them are from China, you can bet prices are going to spike.
Yes,
But
I agree.
uh, if other countries can step up, it doesn't need to be all from China. You can be right.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them could come from Thailand, from Indonesia, around the region.
Mm-hmm.
So long as these are still up and running, I don't think that there's going to be much of an effect as far as the prices are concerned.
Well, if they are also affected by Evergrande, that can also be a factor too, right? Because
True, but life must go
technically,
on.
yeah, their prices might be too high too. It really depends on how this Evergrande drama plays out because if or how far the effects will radiate, because if you are a small economy and you are in the region, for sure these will be very very big waves.
Well,
So
we
yeah,
have some updates on Evergrande for the last 2 days.
okay.
First of which is that somehow Evergrande was able to get a 14 billion infusion, but
From
this is
who?
not going to last long.
Yes.
I think it came from the central bank. Okay, but
Oh, so
this
it's
is not
a
going to last long. Maybe it's only
yeah.
good for 2 3 months, but uh, they need to sell their assets. They
Yes,
need to pay
but
off
mhm.
these loans.
That's the Chinese central bank, right?
Yes,
So so in a way, it's like a small bailout.
in a
It's like
way, but
yeah.
it's not good for the whole thing.
Mm.
All
It
the
won't.
camping out in the offices of Evergrande, that's not going to do anything for the investors, because we all know you have a debt. You're going to be obligated to pay off the loans from the banks. After that, then you pay off your suppliers if you have any money left.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Then the investors.
Mm.
So that's
Okay.
a
So
problem.
I mean, the investors are going to get the short end of this whole thing. You think? Okay. Okay.
Um,
Anyway, yeah.
yeah.
Anyway,
So
for
there's
our
going to be a lot of people who are going to be homeless, unfortunately.
oof, that sounds bad. Okay. Maybe last question.
Okay.
As a investor in the Philippine stock market, if you talk to me, we're friends, and you tell me this story, you talk to me, and I ask you, what am I going to do? What do you say? Will you tell me stay out of the markets first or something else?
That now depends on what are you holding on to. Are you holding on to something that's making money for you? If it is, I'm going to say get out. Sell,
Okay.
get your profits. If you have any, get out, stay on the side. If you're someone who has something and all you see is red, if
Might as
there's
well.
a chance for any kind of rally, you may want to
Sell.
take that small loss. Well, small is relative, but you
Yeah.
may want to take that loss and then sit on the side.
Okay.
However, if you're just thinking about getting into it,
Think
nah,
twice. Think
nah.
twice. Okay. I think that
Sure,
says it all.
yes. I think there's the glamour of people having money in the market, but don't be in a rush. Okay, this is not a sprint. Okay, the whole market. If you try to uh, to put your money in the market, this is a marathon, and you have to pick your battles. Okay, look for the ones that will give you a good profit. Okay,
Okay.
so I think there's not much we can do as far as this Evergrande situation is concerned.
Okay. Well, that's it. So, um, that is the situation now, and the potential, the future looks a little dire. For sure, we will be watching the Evergrande controversy very closely, and we will also be watching the Philippine stock market very closely for any clues as to where it will go. But technically, we've already told you where it might go, and the potentials here, and we've given you the advice. So that is it for our episode of Trendspotting in the PSE. As usual, you have your I am your host, Alquin Papa. And like I always say, knowledge is always a good investment.
And I'm Bonner Dytoc. I'm reminding you of two things. Number one, we have our seminar. Well, we call it a webinar now because we're forced to do it online. So our next batch is going to be on October 9, 16, and 23. So you can call me or you can reach me at the numbers that were being shown there. We have the numbers down there. So you can just give me a message about it. I can give you details. And again, I'm reminding you that the trend is your friend.
Okay. Bye, guys.
See you guys.